Good evening, Shavua Tov. Rabbi Micah and I are so happy to be here in our beloved Temple Beth David sanctuary to begin this evening of celebration with Havdalah, with ending Shabbat and looking ahead to a new week. Pandemic wasn't enough. Your rabbis came out in a nor'easter to be here in this very special place. We hope you'll take pride in seeing our sanctuary, seeing our bima and our ark behind us. Just a note for Zoom, we would invite you to set your screen to the gallery setting. This vision is for a community Havdalah, although we can't be in this space together. If you set it to gallery, you should be able to see each other's faces, wave to each other, and see your light shining through your screen. If your power goes off, no worries. This evening is being recorded and the videos will all be sent to you. Right now, the light is shining brightly here in our sanctuary. As we move into Havdalah, we're going to begin with a few psalms that start the Havdalah ceremony. These psalms speak of the image of God's strength, God's song, and light that has sustained the Jewish people throughout the centuries. We'll also bless the wine, our symbol of joy, as especially this evening we celebrate the joy of 60 years of the Temple Beth David community. We'll bless the spices as we mark and celebrate the sweetness of Shabbat and the sweetness of this community. So many memories that stay with us, and our light, our Havdalah candle, the spark of creation, spark of innovation that will carry us into the future. And we'll hold the candle up at that moment. This candle here has 6 wicks. 6 is a wonderful number this evening, celebrating 60 years of Temple Beth David. We'll invite you in your home to join us. You received the words for Havdalah in your special gift bag, or if you signed up just today, you can find them on the Temple Beth David website. I invite you to light your candle and pour a little wine, have your spices ready, and we'll move into Havdalah. הנה אל ישועתי אבטח ולא אפחד, כי עוזי וזמרת יה אדוני ויהי לי לישועה. ושפתם מים בששון ממעייני הישועה, לאדוני הישועה לעמך ברכתך סלה. אדוני צבאות עמנו משגב לנו אלוהי יעקב סלה. אדוני צבאות עמנו משגב לנו אלוהי יעקב סלה. אדוני צבאות אשרי אדם בוטח בך. אדוני הושיע המלך יעננו ויום קורנו. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר, כן תהיה לנו. כוס ישועות אשא ובשם אדוני אקרא. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. la 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 la, ya la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei meorei ha'esh, borei meorei ha'esh. Ya Elai, ya la 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 la, ya Elai, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la. Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, chatoteinu hu yimchol, zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe kachol, v'chakochavim balayla. Shavua tov, 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 shavua tov. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera ve'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi.
Ted Reinstein. I've been a Temple member here at Beth David for 10 years, and tonight it is my honor and my pleasure to be your MC for a special evening of celebrating 60 years of Temple Beth David here in Westwood, Massachusetts. I am here at the temple this evening, along with the rabbis and along with a wonderful small group of dedicated and talented folks who have worked together to make this evening possible. Of course, given the weather and the roads out there, we may end up spending the night here. But before that, we have a wonderful evening planned. We'll be looking back, we'll be looking ahead, we have some music, we even have some interactive trivia planned. For instance, here's one. When was the last time that Temple Beth David did an anniversary celebration virtually? Answer, never. We're all making history here tonight together. So with that, let's begin. But first, one quick housekeeping note. Please reset your Zoom setting to speaker view now, okay? So you'll find that if you browse in the upper right-hand corner of your screen and hover there, you should be able to reset that to speaker view. And with that, let's begin, and what better place to begin than at the beginning?
Doherty, along with Helen Blumenthal and Emma Shapiro, were the original founders of the congregation that would ultimately become Temple Beth David. They began organizing a group of Jewish people in the area. They each first asked their friends and family if they would join. They asked each of their friends to reach out to other Jewish families. The Dedham Westwood Jewish Community Group was beginning to be formed. My mother went through the phone book looking for Jewish-sounding names. My mother would call strangers that she didn't know, and she would ask them if they were Jewish. Now, that is chutzpah. And she did find some additional people this way. The Dedham Westwood Jewish Community Group often met at the Dedham Community House, or they met at different homes. Eventually, this group bought their first permanent building. This was on Rockland Street in East Dedham. I remember seeing a picture of my father and mother, along with several other people, working on the inside of the building to convert it from a church into a synagogue. I certainly feel really proud of my mother and what she has accomplished.
Well, remember that it was after World War II, and people were leaving the city. Young families were leaving the city and looking to the suburbs. And a group of them settled in this area and wanted more than just a social group. They had children that needed a Jewish education, and they needed a place for the, I'm not so sure for Shabbat, but they needed a place for the high holidays. And so we voted and became Temple Beth David of Dedham and Westwood. And of course now we comprise, 27 communities. People hear about us and join us. Lovely.
When we moved here, we were greeted by the Perlmans, Mel and Rita Perlman, who, when they found out we were Jewish, showed up at our house with a
box of penny candy.
A box of penny candy that they bought here in town. When we approached the reform movement, they were very happy to have a congregation in Dedham, and they loaned us a 300-year-old Torah.
We were very do-it-yourself, totally. Edna Gordon and Harv knew how to use a hammer. As Edna said, we're the only two who do. One member of our family member of the congregation were Mo and Rose Rimmelman, and Mo was a carpenter, and they were older. They must have been about 60 or 65 at the time. Maybe they were even 50, but from our 30-year-olds, that looked pretty old. Mm-hmm. And they would give each other meaningful gifts for their birthdays. And Mo asked Rose what she wanted for her birthday, and she said, paneling for the temple. We made draperies, we made curtains. As a matter of fact, I still have the remainder of the roll of fabric. I don't know if anybody wants it, but I have it. When a child was bar mitzvah, it was not that family's child, it was our child. And so nobody had a bar mitzvah that was catered. You all brought. The breakfast after Yom Kippur, we all brought. It was really it was pretty much a sit-down meal, actually. But I remember we would set it out before the end of services, and I was the choir. And I got several people in the congregation to sing with me for the high holidays. And we would stand there, and the aroma of the herring would kill us because we were salivating as we were trying to sing.
One of the student rabbis was a good-looking guy, and he was forever picking up women. And I get a phone call at work from Northeastern Airlines
He flew in from New York.
Would I please tell the rabbi that the ministerial
Discount.
was for him and not for the girls he was picking up at the airport?
Nobody seems to quite recall who that student rabbi was, but he certainly seems to have left a lasting impression on Harvey Atkins. Now to a rabbi who everyone knows and reveres and who needs very little by way of introduction. Rabbi Henry Zub was Temple Beth David's very first rabbi. He served as rabbi here for 38 years and today is Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Beth David. A couple of weeks ago, I had an opportunity to talk with Rabbi Zub about his journey here, and the setting where we met is significant. We met up at the location of Temple Beth David's very first location here in Westwood. So, Rabbi, obviously, very meaningful place.
Definitely.
We'll talk about that in a moment, but you know, I was so amused by one single anecdote about the temple's earliest history, and it had nothing to do with the building per se, just one facet, or should I say faucet. I mean, the temple shared space initially with two separate churches, right? A Lutheran church, a Baptist church. This was the Baptist church.
Yes.
So tell me about that. You hear water running. Obviously, you're thinking, that's money. We're wasting.
Well, on this site here was the temple. The temple was originally the educational center of the First Baptist Church.
Right.
And the First Baptist Church was across the street in that triangle, that green triangle there.
And a very historic church in its own right.
Yeah, I think it's the oldest church building in Norfolk County.
Yeah.
And now they've moved it up next to Thurston.
Right.
Yeah, so one Sunday I was here all alone in the temple. I'd been working with some kids and something. I was here. I heard the water running. So I was running the bathroom and running to the kitchen. And
Couldn't find the source.
Couldn't find it. So I opened the door, and the Baptist minister's coming out. I said, "What's going on? Do you know anything about this?" And he said, "Well, we're filling our baptismal font, and we didn't tell you, but the water comes from your place because we don't have any plumbing here. So thank you." So I said, "Well, we're not going to charge you. It's okay, but it's glad to know." So that was a funny discovery.
I read the way you put it was that you decided on the spot that would be your gift to
Yes,
the church for
right.
their having gifted you the space. So that was
Well, they didn't actually.
well,
we had
not
to buy. We had to
entirely,
pay for
right.
it. Yeah,
But they made it available.
they made it available.
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
it was
And you made the water available.
quid pro quo. Of course, I didn't tell the president of the temple about it because we were counting pennies in those days.
Right. Now, a few years later, obviously, the most traumatic event in the history of Temple Beth David. The building that stood here that you were just describing, destroyed in an arson fire
That's
of
correct,
all awful
yes.
things in March 1987. One of the things that has always struck me about reading about that history, long before I belonged to the temple, I was genuinely touched by the reaction of the larger community, Jewish and non-Jewish. What do you recall about that reaction?
Well, we had great interfaith support here. The night after the burning, at the high school, we went up for the interfaith. We had an interfaith council, all the churches in the synagogue, and they sponsored a service. And there was standing room only at the high school, and we had some prayers, and I spoke, and it was a very inspiring moment to feel all those people behind us. And then, when we got in the year, we had no use of our sanctuary or anything because the fire was pretty devastating.
Right.
So every Friday night, we would go to the basement of St. Margaret Mary's Catholic Church. We had our Friday night service. When we had a Seder, I think we had it at the First Parish Church. We did all the churches in town were very, very open to us and helpful and supportive. And they also, I remember going to St. Denis, and they gave us $5,000 that they had taken up in collections. So it was really a wonderful, we felt very supported, and for 2 years, we were the wandering Jews. It was difficult, but
Really were.
we were thankful to get to our new building, which we just love. But,
Right.
so it was sad, it was very hard, but there was a little bit of blessing that came at the end, being able to go to that. And that land was donated to us by the owners of the Westwood Lodge, Daniel Stryer.
Right.
And
So really the the temple's first years, in decades really,
Yeah.
were really marked by really great support here in Westwood, right?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we originally began in Dedham, but when
Right.
they bought this building, which I think was in
That was the one on Rockland Street.
yeah 57, they came here,
Right.
and they had a lot of
Yeah.
communal support. So that was great. We always felt welcome here.
So I'm interested in how it feels for you to be standing here where the first real temple stood that you folks had created and put work and money into. And then you are a rabbi at the new temple on Clabber Tree. How does it feel for you now, 60 years on, in terms of the congregation, to have straddled both the very beginning days and the present days?
It's a little bit humbling because I remember our humble beginnings, but I'm also full of appreciation and thankfulness because through hard work and determination and loyalty to the community, we now have a wonderful temple with a wonderful congregation, and it's
There's a congregant calling
it
you
is.
now.
Hello. Probably a
It
scam.
never stops for a rabbi, does it?
And I've been retired for 14 years now, but I'm so appreciative that the temple still involves me in a lot of things. I teach and I preach, and I'm there to fill in for the other rabbis, and it's a very gratifying feeling.
I wonder, lastly, Rabbi, if it ever feels a little bit like a proud parent for you. I mean, you had many co-parents, but you were there as this congregation, literally in its infancy, through its early stages, through some difficult growing pains, traumatic ones, into now mature and productive and thriving adulthood. Is there a sense of pride?
There is. I definitely feel very proud of it. But there were, in those early days, we were so dependent upon each other that I walked into the temple the first time, this old building that was here, and what did I see? There were members of the congregation who were varnishing the floor. So everything was like a cooperative venture, and so people really being here at the time was demanding of congregants, but they all had to pitch in. And I feel a great sense of pride, but people like the Atkins who are still here and Florence Chrysler, we were in it together. And in some sense, I miss that tight little codependent community, but what we've come to now with wonderful rabbis, Rabbi Micah and Rabbi Karen, it's great. So I am proud of what my contribution, but it was a joint effort. It was great.
Could have talked to Rabbi Zub all afternoon. Wonderful memories, and still so active. So here's a little trivia question. I said it before, did you remember how many years was Rabbi Zub rabbi here at Temple Beth David? The answer is 38. So we're going to play some trivia now, okay? And it's going to be interactive even. It's going to be interactive. We're going to be playing Two Truths and a Lie. Are you familiar with that game? So you're going to see 3 statements on the screen, okay? 2 are true and 1 is false. Your job, should you choose to accept it, is to pick out which one is false, and you can put your guess in the chat function, okay? So you can type it in there, and we'll have a minute to look through, and then to the person who guesses correctly which one is the lie, there's no prize. But there is the fun of having the only interactive element in the entire evening. So let's jump right into it right now. So the first question, first statement. The paneling at the first Temple Beth David building was given and installed by Mo Rimmelman. His wife Rose had requested that this be her birthday gift. Number 2, part of this statement. Rabbi Zub and Barbara Zub spent 7 years commuting from Watertown to Westwood before moving to Westwood. After it, he was hired as the first full-time rabbi. 3rd, the current pandemic forced Temple Beth David to halt services in the sanctuary in January. Because of our nimble and creative leaders, we were able to continue via streaming and parking lot services while adhering to COVID protocol. So which of those 3 statements is false? Oh, I see all kinds of typing away here. I see all kinds of wrong answers. and some right answers. Oh my goodness. People are into this. We should just do this for the rest of the evening. Aha. Well, that's not right. So remember, you're after which one is false. Which one is false? Okay, well, I see plenty of good answers, correct answers. If you guessed number 3 was false, you are right. That is the false. Actually, services halted in March, not January. So the next one. Okay, these are the 3 statements. You pick out which one is false. 1, Rabbi Karen and Rabbi Micah met in California. They spent time working in Northern California and then Tulsa, Oklahoma, before making their way to Temple Beth David with their twins 4 years ago. Rabbi Karen is from Belmont and Rabbi Micah is from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Number 2, the 7th through 12th graders, Double Chai, meet every Tuesday and Thursday to build a stronger youth community by sharing ideas, conversation, and pizza. Number 3, the first Interfaith Mini Walk for Hunger was started as a bar mitzvah project to support Project Bread and local food pantries. This year, under the leadership of Connie Rizzoli, the walk continued as a virtual event, raising over $9,000. So which of those 3 statements is false? This is where we should be hearing the Jeopardy theme. Although at Chronicle, we're not allowed to say that word. We just refer to it as the J word. Let's see. Do I know which one is false? Yes, okay, I know which one is false. Only because I've been told. Although you'd think I would know because my daughters did Double High. Okay. So, this is good. This is a uniformity of opinion here on the correct answer. The correct answer is number 2, which is false. Double Chai meets on Wednesday night, not Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, if you've been wrong on everyone so far, you have one more chance to redeem yourself. We have one more. Here we go. Here are the 3 statements. In 1960, a temple by the same name, Temple Beth David, in Canton, asked our founding members to change the name of our temple so it wouldn't be confusing. The congregation voted and declined to change the name of the temple. Turns out it wasn't confusing. Number 2, Sunday Sandwich Chevra is a way to give back to the greater Boston community by supplying lunches to Father Bill's program. The lunches typically include peanut butter, jelly, and banana sandwiches. Number 3, the Rosen Function Hall is in memory of Dr. Barbara Rosen, a pediatric hematologist and oncologist at Deaconess Hospital. Barbara is the daughter of founding members Al and Alice Rosen. Which one is false? Which one is false? Okay, I do know. Okay. This is one of those ones where you think, This one has the ring, I would say, of something that was false. Everything else sounds pretty valid. The answer is 2. If you guess 2, you're right. The Sunday Sandwich Chevra does not use bananas in their sandwiches. So, we're back out of trivia. You know, music is such an important part of any congregation, and Temple Beth David has been, I would say, extremely fortunate to have had some wonderful music over the years by some wonderfully talented and committed people. None more so, perhaps, than our former cantor emeritus, Cantor Louise Treitman. She was cantor at Temple Beth David for 20 years. And you know, when we asked people for recollections of Cantor Treitman, one word stood out, and that was how fondly they remember her.
Back in 2019, February 2019, a group of us came from Temple Beth David to go to Israel. We are sitting in the airport and you're told that our flight is canceled because there's a snowstorm. So we leave the airport all in different directions. Some of us end up in Maine, some of us end up staying in Boston for the night, some of us end up going to Germany. Some of us end up going to Toronto in another route. And in the end, we all end up in Israel. Then we get off the plane. We walk towards the customs desk, and I turn to my right, and who is standing next to me but Kendra Treitman. She isn't in our group, she's not on our trip, but she happened to be just at the right place at the right time, and it felt great to see her, and again in Israel for the first moments of our time in this wonderful place.
Congratulations, Temple Beth David, on 60 years, Mazel Tov. I spent 20 years as your clergy, one of your clergy, with Rabbi Zub, and had a wonderful time. I'm so honored to be your cantor emerita. And I wish you Mazel Tov to the whole community, the congregation, for many more years. My prayer is that a Sukkah Shalom, a shelter of God's peace spread over you, over this community, congregation, Temple Beth David, and that you feel that Sukkah of peace.
You know, standing here in Temple Beth David this evening, it occurs to me that maybe many of you have had the same experience I've had, many of us have had, where you may have had friends come to a service or come here for a B'nai Mitzvah who are not members, people who have never been to the temple, and yet who say wonderful things about the physical building itself, that it feels warm, that its scale is really inviting. But it occurs to me, you know, that you can be very, very familiar with a place, with this place, and yet still there are lots of things you might be surprised.
All right, Ted, thanks so much. It's great to be with you inside the temple tonight.
Hi all. First of all, I just wanted to say how much I miss everybody and look forward to seeing you in the future. I'm Stephen Ellis. I'm your former Vice President of Temple Beth David, and it's great being with you guys. I would like to just kind of take you around the building and show you a few of our symbolic pieces that have been put into the design here.
Great. People might be surprised how much there is to learn from just going around the building with you, so we thank you for this tour. All right, so this is the Beit Simcha, as you were saying.
Right.
Okay.
So first of all, I also want to tell you that I have fact-checked with the great Rabbi Zub on almost all the facts that we'll be discussing
Excellent.
in the next few minutes. So the Beit Simcha has a color of Jerusalem stone on the walls. The points in the ceiling here, of course, reference the Star of David. So the trim work above the chandeliers and the points as well within the ceiling.
Now, you mentioned sky blue. Just to my eyes right now, was that a previous paint color that I'm not seeing right now?
Well, if you look really closely, it's blended blue and the white is supposed to be like clouds floating in the sky.
Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've seen that. You're absolutely spot on. Okay, so I never would have picked up on that. This is one of the reasons that I'm glad you're giving us this tour. The behind the scenes that someone like me has never seen, even being a member here for a few years. Thank you very much. That's great. All right, so we come outside. Obviously, it's pretty dark outside now, but the whole idea here is there is some light to see something outside. Tell us about that, Steve.
Yes, well, I love the exterior of the Beit Simcha. If you notice, the trim work is lit up, and it is the shape of a menorah. And the round windows are flame, supposed to be the top of the candles on the menorah.
One of the things you also mentioned to me was about the shape of the building.
Yes, so if you notice, our building is very horizontal. It's built on a slab. And the reasoning behind that is that we want to be very open to the community and welcoming for large festivals and our holidays, as opposed to a more vertical building, which might just be kind of a individualized relationship with God. But we want to have that as well as a really wide open, welcoming building.
And one of the things that I've always found is interesting is this is really part of the neighborhood. I mean, so many families
Yes.
live within walking distance of here, and
You're
it really
absolutely
does
right.
kind of fit in.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So the building's design is in New England architecture to fit into our beautiful Clapboard Tree Westwood neighborhood. Perfect. If you're over on Pond Street and you're looking at the original building, the original sanctuary, when the sanctuary is lit up during Shabbat or holiday, again, you'll see the sanctuary windows form candles, and also there's more round windows symbolizing flame on that as well. And that's kind of bringing in the original building with the new structure as well, having these circular windows as flame. When you come around the corner of the building, we have two LED lights which light up the large Jewish star. And it has dual purpose. It's not only to see the beautiful Jewish star, but it also does something really spectacular inside the sanctuary when the lights are out.
And for those of
During
us who were
service.
not part of this decision making, how did you decide on all these nuances to this building to make it so special?
Well, it was actually, I believe the architect's name was Claude Menders, before I was a member here, had come up with the idea. And I believe they sought him out to actually create the addition so the building works together seamlessly as one.
Very good. Anything else about the outside before we go back in?
I mean, just my own opinion, I really like the Beit Simcha. It kind of looks like an old New England barn, a beautiful barn to celebrate in.
Excellent. All right, back inside.
This is the line from where the original building ended and where the new addition was built. So right here is your line of demarcation of that project.
So it was really just half the size, essentially,
Yes.
of what it is now.
Right, so we've really added a big, beautiful school for our children. And hopefully, the congregation will keep growing, and we're really excited about that.
Terrific. So I I trust this is a room that everyone knows pretty well.
Yes, the sanctuary, a lot of special memories for myself, and I'm sure all the other congregants have been made in here. And something I wanted to point out was the ark. So the trim work, the accents of this, represents the shield of David, King David.
Shield of King David. Was the design done in a certain way to kind of flare out like it does?
I think in imagery that they've seen in drawings of King David, his shield had these lines in it. So,
and obviously,
protection of the people, protection of the Torah.
Given that the Star of David is right above, that
Right.
sort of makes a whole lot of sense. Wow.
So, in the last point where I had mentioned the two LED lights that are outside, if you notice, they also project, and we can turn the lights off, but they project the Star of David onto the ceiling with a heart around the Star of David, symbolizing the love of our faith and the love of our community and each other.
Each of these different embellishments are things that I really have not picked up on, and I trust many other congregants have not either. Steve, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. We really appreciate this tour.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, we'll send it back to you guys.
Really, I always considered it a second home. When I come here, it's like really almost being in my own home. The people, the place, it just means really everything to me. Well, and it was July 1st, 1982 was the first of the 2 times I was president. And at Temple, it was really quite different. First, it was different physically. We were in a much smaller site on 40 Pond Street. And we had a much smaller number of members. I think we had probably about 140 families. And we ran very informally. Administratively and financially, it's quite different today. Today we're much more efficient, maybe a little business-like. Back then we didn't send out dues payments until September, which sometimes caused a problem in July because we didn't have money. So then that changed in future years, but it was run much more informally. Well, actually, we had a cantorial soloist at Temple Beth David for many, many years. And in the early 90s, we had a soloist named Benji Schiller, who turned out to be one of the leading cantors in the Reform movement. And she sang a nagoon. A nagoon is like la 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 la. It's just a tune with no words. It sets the mood. And we had never done that at Temple Beth David before. And before, at high holidays, before a solemn prayer, she did that. I'm on the bimmer, I look out, and many of my friends walked out. So I guess they did not like it. So what I actually said to Benji was, Benji, you're wonderful. Just no more nagoons, please. For many years, the summer services, Rabbi Zub did only a few summer services for important events, a bar mitzvah or some occasion. But most weeks, he did not lead summer services. And so I was vice president of religious practices for about 25 years when I wasn't president. And I was responsible for organizing summer services and getting people to run them, and also to do many myself. So I was the one who sort of had to be the person available in case someone couldn't do a summer service. As a result, I learned a lot about the book of Deuteronomy, because Deuteronomy parshas are in the summer. So I guess I learned how to do services, and I learned how to do a Devar Torah, and I learned a lot about Deuteronomy.
Well, there you have it. Now you know if you have a legal question or any question in any way regarding Deuteronomy, Will Krasnow's your guy. Will is a great guy, and he has a wonderful voice, by the way. And back to the subject of music, for many years, Temple Beth David had a wonderful cantorial soloist, Rachel Reef Simpson. She was cantorial soloist here for 8 years. Today she is cantor in her own right at Temple Emmanuel Sinai in Worcester. And in her time here, I knew Rachel, so many people. She was beloved she is thought of so fondly. And Temple member Sharon Crichton has one particular story she shared with us that really speaks to the special person that Rachel is.
So my son was in the Hebrew school here, and he had some things, and the Hebrew school was hard for him. It didn't really work out so well. There was a little bullying. It was just tough, and so it became really uncomfortable for him, and we ended up bullying him. And he started to have not a great feeling about Judaism and about the temple. And so that was the part that was upsetting for me, because that means a lot to me, and I wanted him to feel good. So we thought about how can we help get him that learning without being at the temple. And I hired a tutor, and the tutor came, and that didn't really work either. He wasn't very interested, and he was having a hard time connecting, which he does sometimes. And then it was a few months before he's going to turn 13, and he was supposed to become a bar mitzvah, and we were thinking about how do we make that happen. So we decided to take him to Israel and maybe have a connection there, but we really wanted him to do the bar mitzvah ceremony. That had always been the plan, and we didn't think we were going to be able to get there. And then someone told me to talk to Rachel Reeve Simpson, who is the cantorial soloist. And I talked to Rachel, and Rachel said, let me give it a shot. So she came to my house, and she literally opened a bag that had the books with the Hebrew in it, and bags of potato chips, different flavors. And she said to my son, what do you like? Because this is very important, what's the snacks? And over potato chips, they bonded. They pulled out different flavors each week. She came every week, and she taught him to chant from the Torah. And 2-3 months later, we were standing on top of Masada. And he chanted he chanted every single aliyah himself beautifully from the Torah. We never thought we'd get there, ever. So that's the story. I mean, it's something I will never forget.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'dor vador nagi God lecha. L'dor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning we will have the strength to say. L'dor vador nagi God lecha. L'dor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name. L'dor vador nagi God lecha. L'dor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, lips shall praise your name, your name, your name. These lips shall praise your name. Mazel Tov, Temple Beth David, on 60 wonderful years.
You know, needless to say, this room, this sanctuary has seen so many wonderful simchas and celebrations over the years. Of course, alas, over the last 9 months, those kinds of wonderful celebrations and simchas for everybody, everywhere, so many have been unable to happen. But one special simcha, a wedding, by Temple members Liz Watsky and her husband now, Robert Valoy, was able to happen right back at the very, very beginning of the pandemic, before everything shut down. And it only happened thanks to the quick and creative action of our rabbis.
Well, our wedding was supposed to be March 29th. And at the beginning of March is when the news about the pandemic really started going on. So we had a lot of our guests who either were immunocompromised or from far away end up canceling, saying you can't come. And that meant that here we were losing a lot of guests, and we went to our venue and we said, like, we just need to postpone it. But we still wanted to get married on our actual wedding date, even though we'd be celebrating later with our family and friends. And we found out on, I believe, March 20th from a friend of Rob's who works with the government in Massachusetts, who said, just a heads up, you're not going to be able to get married on March 29th. There's a shutdown happening. And so that Friday, we called Rabbi Karen and we said, hey, how do you feel about officiating our wedding on the 22nd instead of the 29th? She got back to us in like 20 minutes with a quick, like, let me just check in, make sure we can get stuff set up and make it work. And she did it. We had a wonderful ceremony. As Rob was saying earlier, there was a lot of pressure off because we just kind of woke up. I did my hair and makeup. We grabbed our stuff and we arrived, and our wedding was quick and easy. And then that was it. We didn't have to stress about being in front of 150 people.
Yeah, we saw where things were going, and you know, it was a hard decision, but I think we made the right one. And you know, we went from having a wedding that was supposed to be 150 people down to 10. You know, we had each of our parents there and one sibling each, and a couple of witnesses, and that was it. But the fact that it was over Zoom and YouTube meant that it actually reached way more people than we even invited in the first place. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that. So it was the first video to get sent up to Temple Beth David's YouTube channel. And so we were able to now watch this YouTube video every time we want, which I have since. And so many friends and family were able to get onto YouTube, watch it with us. We got so many congratulations. And I still have Temple members saying like, oh yeah, I was looking at the Temple Beth David YouTube channel and I found your wedding, congratulations. So I think within the first week, the views were over 200 views, which was more than our invite list. And that was kind of awesome. And hi, Luna.
And this is Luna.
This is Luna. She was our dog of honor for the day of the wedding.
Yeah, so totally new experience for me. I mentioned that it was my first Jewish wedding and happened to be my own. So Rabbi Karen was fantastic in preparing us for everything. And even during the ceremony, walking me through everything was more important. But I know we're both happy to have that help.
Yeah.
Can't say enough good things.
She was wonderful, and she really made the ceremony very personal. And explain things for those who are viewing it and for our family members who were there who were not Jewish. It was a very special experience, and she did a wonderful job.
Did you get to break the glass?
I did, successfully.
Successfully.
That was my biggest worry, actually. That was the thing I was worried about the most. I bought multiple wine glasses. One of them looked a little bit too sturdy. So like, I gotta get one that's a little more fragile looking, but crushed it, literally.
Congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ellie.
E-L-L-I-E.
Nice. Ellie, how old are you? Great. And Mom, what's your name?
My name is Melissa.
Great. And last name?
Levin.
Levin?
Yes.
Great. I will not ask you your age, I promise.
She's
And-
younger than me, which is really all that matters.
Fair enough. And Jared, is that what I hear you say?
Yes, I'm Jared Levin.
Spell Jared for us, please.
Jared.
Okay, awesome. And?
What's your name? This is Jacqueline, or Jackie.
Jackie, how old are you, honey?
4.
Yeah, I think that we really first heard of it because we have a neighbor who's down the street who is telling us about this temple. What would you like more of?
Yeah, the Gottliebs live down the street from us, so that's how we first sort of heard about it.
And I think overall the rabbis are so approachable, and for our kids to drive up to Temple and love being here and get excited to be here is a wonderful sign of what this community means to us.
Yeah, and this playground, which is new, is now just even more of a draw. I mean, we were coming here without the playground. When we could go in the building more pre-COVID, Jacqueline would run up and down the halls, and even with like infants who are difficult, and it was a very welcoming environment, and it didn't feel stressful to come here with an infant when it was Ellie, or even with Jacqueline, really young kids, and it felt really welcoming. The Purim services were really fun. We've come here for Purim, I think, every year.
My family, I was raised Jewish, but my father was Muslim and converted, so it was really important to us to raise our children Jewish, but also in a community where they are inclusive of the beliefs of others. And I think that is a really special part of this temple, and that was evident to us.
I mean, I remember even recently when there was, the church in town paid for a police detail during the high holidays here when there was an incident, even just within the past year, which I just thought was really, really nice. I mean,
We also came, there was I forget what it's called, an intercultural peace walk, and we had an au pair who identified as Muslim, so she came here for the peace walk, and it was a wonderful experience, and she too was like, this is a very welcoming community, so that was great.
Yeah, I mean, as a child of an interfaith, my mother, never converted. Melissa's father did convert to Judaism, but they weren't, I don't know if they were as involved. My mom really was very open to being very involved, so I was raised Jewish, but we celebrated all the sort of Catholic or Christian holidays, not in our home, but with my mom's extended family, and so I think what Melissa's talking about is inclusion is really important to us. The Jewish aspect is really important, but again, just sort of this community feel and such a welcoming environment has been, I think, probably Temple Beth David's, one of their biggest draws.
Tonight, of course, we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Temple Beth David, but next fall will mark another special anniversary. It will mark 5 years of the arrival of the temple's new rabbis, Rabbi Karen and Micah Citrin. Recently, I had a chance to talk with them right here in this very room and get their thoughts about their new home.
Ironically, you two are actually among the more relative newcomers to the community over the past 60 years, and yet you are the leaders, spiritual leaders of the community. I wonder, what were some of your first impressions when you visited, you came for your successful audition? What were some of your impressions of the Temple Beth David community?
Well, speaking for both of us, we are both so honored to be serving here at Temple Beth David as rabbis, as educators, and in many ways, my first impressions is how I describe Temple Beth David to prospective members now. We truly walked into a warm and welcoming place, and I know those are just words, but anyone who's been here, how truly welcoming Beth David is, down to earth, inviting, accessible. I think it's unique that Beth David draws from so many different towns and places, because everyone I speak to, they're here because they genuinely feel Jewish community, Jewish connection that many of us don't feel where where we live on our own. And this place truly sustains our identity, our souls, our spirituality. And when I describe Beth David to prospective members, I tell them, and it's hard now during the pandemic because you can't come here and meet people. And I kind of ask them, you're going to have to trust me on this, but when you can come and see people, you will see how friendly, how nice, how down to earth, how welcoming this community truly is. And whatever background you come from, whatever your experience is, any ages, kids, people feel welcome from their first step here. And I know we're looking forward to having everyone back so we can all feel that.
The first step in our interview was in this room, a Havdalah that we led for members of the board and the search committee. And we walked into this sanctuary. And it's really the heart and soul of this place, which Karen described. And as we sang with those people who were gathered and heard our voices meld together, we said, this feels like home.
I think from day one, we noticed that Beth David makes up in numeric size in its spirit, and truly many people are engaged and participate on all levels of worship and study and social action. I mean, truly, you wouldn't know how small Beth David is in its size based on how much people participate, contribute, leadership roles, and how much volunteers do to make this place truly run. And that spirit is felt, I think, by everyone.
We pray above our weight here.
Pray above our weight, that's right.
So I'm curious, you mentioned, Rabbi Karen, the pandemic, obviously, the backdrop against which why we are not having a big gala in person. I'm curious, we are right almost on the eve next week of Hanukkah. Are there any parables, any tie-ins that you see with the Hanukkah story and what we're going through now?
The brilliance of Judaism, its relevance is that everything is connected, that there's resonance in our tradition, in our immediate lives. And certainly this has been an extended period of darkness for all of us, where we've been more isolated, where we couldn't gather here. There's been illness, people have lost employment, people have been alone. And I think the message of Hanukkah is that even in the darkest times, of course, we can find light.
Ending on a more upbeat note, what are your own personal kind of hopes for the temple's next 60 years?
Well, in 60 years, the temple will be 120, right?
Which is a good Jewish number.
It is.
It is.
Moses lived to be 120, and his strength never diminished. So that's a start.
Somebody write that down.
I think as a Jewish people, and certainly as Temple Beth David, we do always look forward. We do hold on to hope and that Hanukkah message of adding more light. I feel confident that Beth David has a positive and hopeful future ahead. We know people look forward to being together again. For me personally and professionally, we've been here 5 years now, so hopefully our members have gotten to know us. We are accessible rabbis. We like to make sure, again, all ages, all stages feel welcome here, feel that there's something for them. And I think I look forward to Beth David just continuing to open our doors even more. We've talked a lot about inclusion, a lot about diversity, and again, seeing people where they're at. That can be in terms of, again, prayer, learning, things that we're doing to engage kids here. I'm very excited that our Temple Board has been talking at length about the possibility of an early learning center at Temple Beth David, engaging families and kids from an even younger stage, truly birth to the end of life, what that would symbolize for the community here, the broader community, in terms of seeing the temple as a place where all can come to.
Engaging ages 4 to 90, 80 people coming to Israel. And all those things are acts that take place in the present that lead us to the future in terms of making connections. I think about the fact that we have 80 solar panels on our roof, which is thinking about our larger world and the future that we want to see, and that we're building that. And at the end of the day, I think as we move forward, it's moving forward with deepening connection to one another, to escorting one another through life together with Jewish tradition as our guide.
To continue good things.
When thinking about the place that is Temple Beth David, so many words come to mind for so many different people. You hear words frequently like warm, welcoming, inclusive, friendly. And yet, I suspect few of us would disagree that one word seems to be above all others, and that word is community.
Been able to represent Temple Beth David in 2 Habitat for Humanity home builds. It's the ultimate tikkun olam.
My name is Jason Kraft, and back in 2008, I helped organize Temple Beth David's first mini Walk for Hunger as a part of my Bar Mitzvah project. I was incredibly humbled by the number of people that participated in that event. And so you can imagine how thrilled I was to learn that 12 years later, Temple Beth David continues to host an annual mini Walk for Hunger to this day. And it makes me incredibly proud to be a member of this community.
Last February, Rabbi Micah took 4 teens and myself to Washington, D.C. There we attended a social justice seminar, Litzaken, where we and teens across the United States and Canada got to lobby Congress about issues that matter to us.
47-year member of the Temple, Temple Beth David has become an integral part of our family through worship, study, and Jewish community. Specifically, as a founding member of the Brotherhood, now in its 28th year, I've thoroughly enjoyed the speakers that we've had, the community outreach programs that I participated in, and last but not least, the great breakfasts that we enjoy on Sunday mornings. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wait a little while before we get another one though.
Well, it is now time for me to say goodnight personally, but we are not done. We're just saying goodnight from here at the temple, and it's my pleasure now to toss things to the home of our rabbis, Karen and Micah, where I hope they have navigated successfully through the snow, and where they're going to lead us in a toast along with their family and the entire Temple Beth David family. Rabbis?
birthday wish for Temple Beth David is that the community is always happy.
2, 1. I love Temple Beth David because the rabbis do a really good job making me feel included.
My birthday wish for Temple Beth David is that there are many good years ahead.
I'm Ben, and I love Temple Beth David because I enjoy studying Hebrew with friends and doing mitzvahs for people in need every weekend so much. And my birthday wish for Temple Beth David's 60th birthday is that everyone stays healthy so that we can keep on seeing people in the community, and that Temple Beth David ages well, looking pretty good for 60.
I love Temple Beth David because I have made so many great friendships in Double High.
I love Temple Beth David because the music is awesome.
Happy birthday to you, Temple. Happy birthday to you, Temple. I wish you had a nice weekend.
Happy birthday to the temple.
My name is Sherry Kaminsky, and my favorite part about Temple Beth David is Double High. I really like being able to just hang out on Wednesday nights and go to really fun classes. And my hope for the temple is that we continue to have a strong community.
One of the reasons that I love Temple Beth David is because of the great communities and because of all the socialization in it.
I love Temple Beth David because of the friends that I've made and the lifelong supporting community that's become my family.
Hi, so my birthday wish for the temple is that it keeps being a temple and everything, and that makes it to 100 years. And something I like about it is how welcoming everybody is there. So, yeah.
I love Temple Beth David because I like seeing my friends at Sunday school.
I love Temple Beth David because the teachers are amazing.
My birthday wish for Temple Beth David is that it continues to be awesome.
I love Temple Beth David because of its strong Double High community.
Hi, it's Graham, and something I love about Temple Beth David is all of the people and kids and hanging out with Jewish friends, studying with them. And a wish I would like to grant to Temple Beth David is for people to keep joining this amazing community.
I love Temple Beth David because of all the friends I've made there.
Yom Huledet Sameach.
Happy birthday, Temple Beth David.
60 years.
Mazel Tov.